What is up, home workout and bodyweight exercise fans? In our previous week's video, we talked about weekly lists. If you missed that, I'm going to link it in the ending of this video. And today we're going to be talking about the power of daily lists. Why do you want to give a damn about daily lists? Well, they can help you with a lot with sparing cognitive resources, brain power. It can help you a lot with being more clear in your head, less brain fog, more clarity, knowing exactly what you have to do, putting all those things, resting them on paper also helps you be less stressed, because keeping these things like spinning in your head all the day long does tend to build up a lot of stress subconsciously, even if you don't realize it. So let's get started. When, first of all, should you write down your daily list? There are two schools of thought when it comes to this topic. Those who say do it the previous night, and number two, those who say do it every morning before you get started with your day. I am a big fan of the morning list ritual. Waking up, having some coffee, maybe meditating if you meditate, and then writing down your list is something I consider a lot more efficient. Why? Well, when you're doing your daily list late at night, if you had a really tough day, if you worked a lot of stress, a lot of this and that, your mental resources, your emotional resources, you're basically, everything is all spent up, you're drained, and it's difficult to sit down and write down a really clear list. You're going to be lacking clarity, and in the morning you're going to write down your list with basically a clean slate. Your brain will be fresh, especially if you've meditated before that. That's why I like to meditate before writing my daily morning list, and you'll be a lot more efficient at writing down a proper list. So start with your daily list every morning. Moving on, how many things should you plan? How much big should your workload be? How many tasks should you put on your daily list? Now this depends, of course, in every person. And what I've come to realize is that when you plan to do too many things, you get overexcited and just go for doing a ton of things, you usually end up doing less things. So the more focused you are on just a couple of things you have to get done, and the more you leave a little bit of spare time, not to be lazy, but just to be able to be a little bit relaxed, to do your things without stressing out. So the more you do these things, the more things you actually get done. There's this fallacy called the planning fallacy that says no matter how much you get organized well with something, you will always underestimate the time this task requires. So here are two tips when it comes to planning how many tasks you're going to put on your daily list and how much workload. Always leave 30% of extra time for unfamiliar tasks. So things you haven't done a lot or things you're doing for the first time, always leave 30% of extra time, because it's the planning fallacy. You'll probably underestimate the time this task needs. And tip number two is to always have an extra unexpected task. So in your daily list, have a task that requires about an hour and call that the unexpected task. That's what I do, and you leave that for the end of the day, but you can cash it in whenever possible. And that's either for time that you didn't realize you'll need, or for things that are unexpected, things that are like emergencies that happen and take a time of your day that you wouldn't expect. Another very important thing when it comes to your daily task is the order that you're going to put the tasks in. Two things come to play when it comes to this, to the order of your tasks. Number one, diversity. So basically there are three categories, things you do with digital machines, so your computer, your phone and all that. Things you do outside your office or home or whatever, and things you do on paper. So these are three main categories of things. And it's always best to alternate between these categories, because this way your brain, you help your brain recharge a little bit more when you're switching from these tasks. Because when you're working like a ton of hours on the computer, it's really easy to get brain fog. So alternating a little bit environments and the means you use to do your things can always give you an extra boost of mental energy, emotional energy, and productivity. This is the first criterion we use for ordering your tasks, and the second and most important is according to urgency. So when you're arranging your tasks according to urgency, it's always important to start with your must do no matter what tasks. These are the tasks, I call that way, basically the things you have to really do on that day. They're really essential for your life, your health, your work, whatever the case might be. And it's always best not to have more than 2, maximum 3 of these tasks. And how do you put in proper order these tasks? Well, these tasks, I found that they're also can be categorized in 2 categories: things you must do but you don't really want to do, and things you must do and also like to do. So for example, things you must do but don't really like to do would be your email, for example. And things you must do and you also like to do would be your workout. You know? One is essential for your work, one is essential for your health, I hope. So these are the things you'd schedule in your must do no matter what tasks. And now here's the key: how would you put these in proper order? Where the quote I use with these tasks is always eat the frog first. So, you know, always do the most uncomfortable task first. So in this case, you know, do your email first if you hate that. And again, you know, depending on your lifestyle, on your work, on all that, these things might differ in order, but I'm just giving you ideas. You can always adjust things a little bit according to your life. Moving on are your secondary tasks. And these are the things that are important, you have to do, but the world wouldn't stop, you know, if you didn't do them. You could, if you had an emergency, you could postpone these for a little while. Simple as that. Our third category of tasks are what I like to call mini tasks. So these are little things that pop out during the day that don't require more than 5 to 20 minutes, I would say. So, you know, maybe somebody calls you and you have to do a favor for them. Maybe you have to go to the bank. Maybe you have to do some urgent shopping, whatever the case might be. Now, these tasks always have to be done at the end of the day. And why is that? It's not because they take so much time, because you can think, you know, oh, okay, I can do this now. It just takes 5 minutes, doesn't matter. But here's what happened. When you're doing, especially when you're doing your must do no matter what tasks, if you stop doing those just because like a mini task popped out, what happens is it's not only the time you lose for doing the task, those 5 or 15 minutes, it's also the time you lose while having to get back into that productivity flow. Because when you're doing like a really important task and you've gone into that flow, into that productivity flow, you're focused, your brain is starting to get structured and, you know, focus on how to tackle that problem. When you stop, when somebody calls you and you stop doing that and you go switch to another thing, instead of delegating this little task for later, you get out of that productivity flow. And in order to get back in that flow, you need emotional resources. So, you know, it can be a little bit frustrating. It's going to take some time to get in that creative flow. So you need that. You're going to also waste brain resources because you have to rewire your brain and get focused in that task. And that's also the extra time you lose on while getting these things done, getting back into this whole flow. So you see, it's not just those 2 or 5 minutes you're gonna lose if somebody calls you and gets you out of your program or whatever the case might be. It's all of these little things that you don't realize but cost a lot of your time and a lot of your energy. Plus these little things that can look like 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes they can unfold into like hours of things that you didn't even really need to do on that day, but anyways, you got into it, dragged into it, and you wasted so much more of your time, and now you won't be even able to do your important tasks. So fourth and last task is our unexpected task. I mentioned that in the beginning. Always save 1 hour for things you don't expect to be happening. That was all. I hope you liked today's video. I've been developing this system for the last 3 years after reading books, after a lot of personal refinement, and I don't mean to sound narcissistic or whatever, but I think this is the best system for daily tasks. If you want to get some more ideas, I would recommend Getting Things Done by David Allen and Eating the Frog by Brian Tracy. Really cool books if you want to analyze things a little bit more, research things a little bit more. Until next time, keep on training. Leave me your comments below, your ideas, how you get things done, how you set up your daily list.